All right, says we're live. And if you've been following the channel for a while, you know that I start a couple minutes early because something could go wrong and I don't like it happening. So let's take a look. Do. Okay, that looks good. Yeah, we're good. All right, welcome to 15 July 2021. The original title was Hopefully with Guests. Oh, F-bombs are armed and maybe dropped. And welcome to the guests. I already got, or viewers, I've already got Luke in here who, very interestingly, he beat Great Sky Troll Anti-Drama in. Troll usually beats me to get in here, so that's very impressive, Luke. That didn't go unnoticed. The original title for today was Hopefully with Guests. I'm not going to throw this guy too far under the bus, but there was an individual who I was hoping would join me today because he had some opinions about a subject I'm going to be bringing up here in a second. He was not supportive. I wanted to fight him. He's chosen to focus on other things instead. Strange. Okay. I'm going to make this part short because it's pretty easy. I have a proposal to annex Mexico. Now, this is a proposal that does have a whole lot of problems. The biggest one I'll come back to in a minute. The smaller ones is, to do this, the Mexican federal government would have to vote to allow the Mexican states, the estados, to leave the Mexican national state contingent upon entry into the United States. Then the states, the estados, would have to vote to join the United States. And then the U.S. federal government would have to vote to bring them in. And that's the simple part. That's something that's actually, it's pretty direct. You can understand it. We don't have to do a whole lot of extra planning. Here's the hard part, and it's the biggest problem. There is a collective body of people who will never, ever allow the states to leave Mexico and join the United States. And these people have a lot of influence. Well, it's the drug cartels is what it is. And the influence they have is 76239. This is a huge problem, but it's also one of the reasons to do it. It's like the single biggest reason. How to address this problem? Well, my idea is pretty simple. We address it 105 millimeters at a time. And they're not going to like that. UN may not like it, but oh well, so what? Why should I give a fuck about the UN's opinion at this point? On that note, they've declared the drug lords to be criminal empires anyway, so right back to square one there. Or I should say they're right back to square one there. And this would permanently solve a permanent problem. I'm just saying. Okay. So I'm going to go on now to my declared subjects. Now I am going to throw somebody under the bus, but it's not really a bus. I don't know how he got it, but Ghost Tactical is the only person I know of who's figured out that Daetslov was Volstead backwards without any kind of hint or clue or anything else. So, everybody, some congratulations to Ghost. I know he's not watching because he's actually at work. He'll probably see this later. Um, on that note, Ghost, you can never call yourself a crayon eater in front of me again. Nope, you can't do it. Sorry, bud. You're too smart for that. You can open the box all you want. I don't care about that. But no, you can't call yourself a crayon eater anymore. Neener, neener. All right, moving on. Now, I'm going to have a little bit of fun. And when I'm having fun, other people are not. The last 2 weeks, I've personally been getting a whole lot of attacks online. On Gab, on Instagram. I haven't been on Fascist Books because I got another 30-day ban for answering a question, but I've been noticing that there are a lot of comments and questions that are directed to me that aren't comments and questions. If you insult me, you will probably amuse me for a while. If you threaten me, you will amuse me for much, much longer. Focusing on the one from Gab, this little jack-off joke, somehow thought that threatening my dad would intimidate me. You really want to take on Papa Carey? Let me tell you what Papa Carey really is. First of all, he was a combat medic, a Navy hospital corpsman with the Marines in Vietnam. I don't mean some medical aid station. I don't mean some hospital. I mean that he learned how to defuse booby traps. I mean that he had mud in his M16. That's the reason why I will never, ever give up the forward assist on my AR-15. I know there's another opinion about it out there. I've heard the opinion, I respect it, and I'm keeping mine. He's actually had to help an M60 gunner. I don't exactly understand what Dad did, but he did something. It's a little bit worse. 100% of the time, prison inmates do not like prison employees. That's an absolute fact of the universe. Except Papa Carey. Half of the state prisons, California state prisons, his name is not unknown, right? There are guys that have been in prison as long as I've been alive, and they heard about what happened at the prison where my dad worked. If, at least at half of California state prisons, if something were to happen while my dad was there, as long as he's not so hurt he cannot be physically removed from the facility and handed over to National Guard or California Highway Patrol or whoever the hell it is that's forming the security zone, he is in the top 10 people. Not only is he going to get out of there, they are going to escort him out. They do not want him there because they do not want him hurt. When you can have the respect of prison inmates enough that if there is an uprising or a riot or whatever the hell it is, and they decide that they really, really like you enough that they want you out of here before something happens to you, you might have done something very impressive. Now, I'm going to leave Papa Carey to tell that story. Um, so, the point here, though, is here's this guy who's threatening or trying to intimidate me by threatening Papa Carey. That's not how it works. Okay? That's how it doesn't work. Do not threaten. First of all, don't threaten veterans, anyways, because we're all a little bit different. Second of all, really don't try threatening us by the internet. At least be in the same physical space as us when you try to threaten us. Right? It's not just this one guy either. No, no, no. But don't try to intimidate us. Don't try to threaten us. Don't try to yeah, go ahead and try and threaten or try and piss us off. That's actually pretty easy. But all this other shit that you think you're doing that you thought was so clever, it doesn't work. My entire life, I only know of one thing that involved an intimidation or threat or anything of that nature that actually had some kind of result. Um, that almost ended up as a very, very bad result for several people because she was the threat to her was bad enough that she was going to physically discuss it in person. Oh, don't do that. Don't be that guy. Right. I hope the lectures are good. I want to move on to something I might actually enjoy something of. Now that I've cleared that list away. Hi, Alpine. Hi, Great. Normally, you're here before I am. So, yeah, you are extremely late. But it's okay. As long as you're late for your own appointment with the Grim Reaper, you're doing pretty good. All right. 9017 is the big subject for today. 9017 is it's the name that me and Brent gave to really our combined concept of what the next generation of terror attack would be like. This is going to be the next 9/11. 9017, the name came vaguely from an allusion to 9/11, of course, but also from the fact that, well, we thought, and I more so than Brent, that Hillary would win the 28, the 2017 vote, or 2016 rather. That it would be about a year later when this attack happened. Okay, well, and Brent actually thought it would be early in the year. I figured it'd be about summer. So we split the difference and agreed that we'd both be wrong. Also, 9/11 has certain apparently historic significance. Yeah, it's okay. We can go with that. All right. The idea goes like this. You have two-man teams in roughly 100 cities across the United States. And what we came up with was the idea that one two-man team would be in the state capital, one two-man team would be in the state's big money city. So for California, this is kind of a problem because it's a three-city state. Sacramento, that's the capital. There's San Francisco, that's the big money, and there's Los Angeles, that's the big splash. It got kind of worse from there because we sat there and discussed for a long time, could there be multiple teams in each city? And when we worked it out, at the time we thought having multiple teams in one city is not going to work out too well. But after Brent passed away and Fix took over, we did come up with a few new potential ideas. So maybe there will be more than one team per city. They're going to wait till, well, basically for Friday, when the bars have opened and businesses closed. So anywhere from about 1,800 to 2,100, 2,200, something like that. And then you're just going to see this wave across the United States of mass shootings at bars, primarily at bars. The team goes in, they shoot up a bar, and then they bounce out and go shoot up another one. Okay. That was the plan that me and Brent had agreed on. And we actually sat there and discussed it extensively. Could chemical weapons be used? Yes, but they're difficult to obtain. They're difficult to utilize. You've got this major problem of it blowing back in your face. On and on and on down the list. And at the time, we agreed that probably not. But they might use smoke grenades. You can get smoke grenades. Hell, I've got one, right? It's actually a search and rescue tool. Pumps out orange smoke. It's supposed to be in this bag, but it won't fit, so I'm coming up with a different plan. Light off a smoke grenade. Everybody thinks it's a gas attack. They panic. The attackers get that smoke to cover their attack. Blah, 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 blah. Something else we had talked about, and we're coming off of it now, is the use of biological weapons. Me and Brent at the time had really agreed that this was highly unlikely because it would blow back guaranteed into the attackers' faces. I don't mean the guys carrying out the attack. I mean their masters. Whether it's Iran or China or Russia or some country you've never even heard of, it would blow back into their faces eventually and inevitably. Actually, and fixed bayonets at the time agreed with that. And then last year hit. And that kind of changed the rules a lot. One of the last conversations I had with Brent, we were talking about this thing in Wuhan, and could it be related, and da-da-da-da. Brent's opinion on that was, no, it was more likely to be an accident. Okay. Actually, his opinion really was, he thought it was just another seasonal flu, because that's where seasonal flu tends to start. But if this was a real thing that we should be worried about, it was probably an accident, an accidental release. Yeah, well, he might be right. I was sticking to my theory that was already forming, that this was no accident. And that lab was not the source. Y'all know what I mean. Um, Something we hadn't considered, and even I hadn't considered this until February, March, April, late April, I think it was, when Fix brought it up, is, the sort of people who strap bombs to their chests are not afraid of dying from a virus. Oh, that's a good point, isn't it? It's worse. Um, my concept was, well, ours, was that this would start in 2017. All right, so here's the part where I talk about all of my mistakes. Not what I got right. You just heard everything I got right. What went wrong? First of all, Donnie got elected, not Hillary. That changed the equation instantly because China was respectful of him, Russia was respectful of him, Iran is afraid of him. Um, well, even Venezuela, which had their craziness while he was in office, understood, don't fuck with Donnie, he will break us. They were getting ready to, and then they thought twice. So, what went wrong with 2017? The wrong guy got elected. The guy that they're actually respectful of or openly afraid of ended up in the White House, and that changed the game entirely. What else did I get wrong? Well, I got wrong the idea of using chemical weapons. I'm not talking about getting them from Syria. I'm not talking about buying them on the black market. I'm talking about making them. It's not as easy as it sounds. But if you're willing to spend 4 years biding your time, you can easily make enough chemical weapons to create some real chaos, if not actually kill a lot of people. What about biological weapons? I mean, I've already said, yeah, I blew that one. Um, the idea that now, the idea that they would never use a biological weapon is just, it's out the window. If nothing else, the use of a biological weapon created so much chaos within the United States that it probably did influence the election. I have my own opinion about what happened in November, but the idea that nobody voted for Biden is absolutely ridiculous. The idea that nobody voted for Biden strictly because of coronavirus is absolutely ridiculous. Can I sit here and say how many did? No, no. I can't even imagine, although I can imagine that there's one particular state that did, and one that may not have voted that way beforehand. It did create that much chaos. And that's the truth. If it was as devastating as Corona could have been, we would have been looking at possibly 50% of the world's population dead. We would have been looking at about 10% of the US population, bare minimum, 10% of the US population dead. What went wrong with the coronavirus plan? A lot of things. First of all, we all got some degree of warning, right? Wuhan went into lockdown. China locked up pretty hard too. And that's when we all knew something's going on and we started getting ready ourselves. The storm was coming. It had already hit this hurricane had already hit the intercoastal islands. And now the rest of us are going home, locking up, stocking up, and getting ready. There, by the time the vaccine came along, it was already too late to do any good. It really was. And there are some people that long before the vaccine came along got themselves vaccinated. If I recall correctly, and I may not be, Luke here was one of the ones that got the virus, not intentionally, but he did get it and recovered about a week later, I think it was. Oh, excuse me. Me, I went out and deliberately got it. Took me a couple weeks to deliberately get it. And then I finally tested positive. Yay, I'm sick now. We got the warning and we were able to get ready for it. Okay, there's something in chat I missed, so I best get my butt over it. All right. DM Foss had said, I have to run some errands. I'll check back if I get back before you're done. Said hi to Troll and Alpine. DM, you didn't say hello to Luke. I've actually known Luke longer than I've known you or Alpine, but not quite as long as I've known Troll. Troll said federal agents are trying to create white national groups to persecute and cheer when they entrap them. That's kind of true, actually. And we know this because of what's coming out of 6 January investigations. Luke dropped out for a bit. Okay. Troll said, so don't join any identity groups. You know what? Don't join any identity groups unless it's for strictly business reasons. And I include, don't join. If you're black, do not join the Black Congressional Caucus. Just don't do it. If you're a black business owner, join the Black Business Owners Collective. I get that. That's about money. That's just about money. I understand that. Go ahead. I'm particularly actually thinking about the Asian Business Owners Collective. I don't know if I can say those words on YouTube or not, but there was a certain group during the King riots that their stores didn't get looted because they exercised their Second Amendment very, very effectively. There's I say famous, other people say infamous photo from that day. Yeah. But if it's really just about making money, grace of God, go and do it. Otherwise, don't. It's just racist. Now, I know you all are looking at my face, and I'm even going to move up closer to the computer so you can see it a little bit better. I would be the perfect candidate for the KKK. Well, look at this face. Have you seen a whiter face in your life without a tan? It's not showing up too good. Oops. Let me see. Yeah, you can just barely tell though. There's a little bit of black in me and a little bit of Indian. And the really shocking thing was Korean. Wait, what? When I got that report, I was just floored. Chinese, I could have expected. Where did the Korean come from? My best guess is a Chinese gold miner came across with a couple slaves. Circumstances arose that he ended up not having one of these slaves, sold, ran away, confiscated, stolen, whatever, who ended up with my ancestors. Like I said, that was a best guess. Um, so I don't know which identity groups I'm allowed to join, but I can tell you one that I can't. All right, Troll. It's not a cult if there's no religious uh, um, connotations, and I didn't promise my mommy that. Rest in peace, Mama Carrie. But I never promised her that, so I guess I have that advantage. Okay. Troll says he's not a fan of collectives. It depends on what the purpose of the collective is. I mean, every business is a collective at the end of the day. It's a corporate group towards a common goal. So, also, chapels are collectives, um, nonprofits are collectives. Everything, anytime you have two or more people working towards a common goal, that's a collective. So, be a little bit more flexible with the word. And he's right. The event that I will not speak of during the King riot was an example of the Second Amendment being used to defend real people, to protect real people. And it wasn't just the businesses. A lot of people don't realize this, but the guys up on the roof, their wives and children were down in the building. Most of them had been working towards barricading the absolute shit out of the building. Uh, and hunkering down because there had already been one lady who was beaten to death in the street. That was apparently the day before or very early that day. um, Chat's moving a little faster than normal today. I'm not complaining, but I did get lost. Um, Troll says he gets moon burn raw. I don't know what that means. I don't think I want to. And his spirit animal is Tigger. Ah, that's okay. Mine is Eeyore. Um, Alpine's DNA results were boring. German, English, and French, I'm going to bet. I'll come to that in a second, Troll. Um, I've talked off and on about starting a second live stream probably on Saturdays because it's just the best answer I could give myself. Um, church of the Empty Clips. Um, it's not actually a church. It's just everybody gets together. The idea was it would be a joint live stream. We all pray for each other. We all praise the Second Amendment like it was one of the 10 Commandments. And then we talk about maybe options thereof. Anyway, that was my idea. There's only one big requirement to be a member of the Church of the Empty Clips. You can't be a Satanist, and you can't be an atheist. That's it. Oh, I'm sorry, 3. You have to swear to keep and bear arms basically all the time. You don't have to sleep with brass knuckles on like one asshole I can mention, but you basically all the time, yeah. You actually have to have a belief in a higher power. So you can't be an atheist by definition. Genius, huh? That was also partially to make sure that there's one person who can't join because I don't like him. Yeah, Troll brings up that every collective can be corrupted, and every collective can be corrupted. It doesn't matter what the nature of it could be an anti-corruption collective, like a government watchdog group, and it can become corrupted. The FAA has been accused of corruption. Oh yeah, because they actually sat down sometime like 80 years ago and said, okay, I a change to our policy or our regulations or whatever that costs X number of dollars will save Y number of lives. At some point, it becomes too expensive to make the change. We're not going to require it. That was called corruption, putting money ahead of lives. No, that was a practical response to a simple fact. Either they put that cap on, or they close the industry entirely. Beyond that, it just became cost prohibitive. Um, there are corrupt cops, and it's not always bribe that I say corrupt. Sometimes it's as simple as, and this is coming under a priority saying, I have a set of priorities. I'm watching this fight happen over here, but I've got 3 DV calls and a injury accident, and I got to prioritize those too. This fight, I don't have a call about. I don't know what it's about. I got to go deal with these DV calls because I do have that one. It's that prioritization thing that can corrupt you the worst. There's corrupt judges. For like the millionth time, I grew up in California. I remember the Prop 22 and Prop 8 battles. I also remember I was still in California when Prop 8 was declared unconstitutional or unenforceable or some weird shit. And the news hit that the judge in that case had just married his husband or his longtime boyfriend, whatever. Oh, you had a dog in that fight. You should have recused yourself before you even heard it. Is that corruption? Yeah. Time to start pissing the season off for real. And there's corruption in every industry and every collective you can name. I'm old enough to remember the Challenger disaster. What happened there was corruption. It wasn't that somebody took a bribe. It's that, hey, I've got a set of missions I've got to get finished. I got jobs I got to get done. And I got this one guy off in the corner saying, hey, it got too cold last night. I don't have time to deal with this complaint that we've dealt with 100 times. It's never been a problem in the past. I got a job I got to get done. Well, what happened next? I know Troll and Alpine are old enough to remember watching it live. I saw it live with about a 3-second delay. And I'm pretty sure Luke is old enough to have seen it live. Every collective can become corrupt. 9017, collective becomes corrupt. Remember I said it was a two-man team? What if one member of the team decides that he's not really quite as happy about this idea as he was when he left boot camp, terrorist boot camp? Oh, might he roll on his partner? Might he accidentally foul the gun? Might he accidentally crash the car if he's the driver? It could happen. That was one of the things they needed to worry about. And the reason why delay is actually a bad thing. The sooner after you turn these people loose, they do it, the more dedicated they'll be. When I left uh, Cape May in 1999, I was absolutely dedicated. Now, I'm not going to go out of my way. I don't I don't care how serious it is. I'm not going to go out of my way. Okay. Troll said, moonburn means I'm very white, like fish belly white. Okay, so it's the opposite of sunburn. Got it. Uh, Alpine is correcting me. No German, just English and Irish. Wow. Even Scottish would be a little more variation than that. Alpine is remembering that frozen O-rings that some guy was whining about, that we don't have time, and we've done this a million times. It's okay. Troll's bringing us up to speed on his ancestry. Wow. One of his ancestors had 3 wives. He's not making it clear whether this one of these wives in particular was his ancestor or not, but she was clearly a slave who was bought from a black man in St. Louis, so that's interesting, for $23, a rifle, and 3 quarts of moonshine. Wow, he must have really, your ancestor must have really, really wanted her, because that's huge. $23 alone, that's a high price. $15 is really kind of on the high end. Um, I'm going to assume the woman that was bought was his ancestor. She kept the bill of sale in a frame because Grandpa freed her. They married and had 12 kids. Pops is a very, very dark red. Okay. Oh, his great grandfather, I believe he said great grandfather, was widowed twice. So that's actually really common back then. Even now, it's reasonably common. Back then, extremely. Congratulations, you got some good genes in your background. Too bad that apple fell so far from the tree. Um, moving on. 9017 is partially the reason for mandatory carry. Yes, some things are going to go wrong. There's going to be a team out there where the driver uh, breaks his resolve, or the shooter breaks his resolve, or maybe both break their resolve at the same time. They get in the car, the driver reaches for the key, they look at each other and say, "This is stupid." And they get out, they go back inside, and so that's not a high probability, but it could happen. Um, there's also an absolute guarantee that there's going to be at least one. And it's the first shots that will be the deciding moment. Once you pull the trigger the first time, there's no going back. Might as well not even bother. That's the truth. Um, if you're one of the ones caught in the shooting zone, shooting city, there's no way for you to escape at some point. The only thing you can do from there is shoot back. Now, maybe you happen to have body armor that doesn't look like body armor. And maybe you have it on that night by absolute luck. It's not going to guarantee that you'll survive, but it will mean that you can stay standing a lot longer than everyone around you. This is the truth. The plain armor that's out there, the backpack armor out there, all of it, it's not going to stand up to 2 rifle rounds. Most of it won't stand up to 1, but it might slow it down enough that you don't die right then and there. It might buy you 10 seconds to make them rethink their plan. It probably won't save your life, but it might save the lives of those around you. If you if you're not the one that's closest to the door and you hear the shots going off and you have your own weapon, now the guy who's coming in here to kill you is already being given a second thought about his plan. And he's even if he's advancing right into you, and you're now ready. All right, and I'm going to go there a little bit. I'm talking about what happened at Pulse nightclub. That guy went in shooting, and he came out shooting, or he went out shooting, I guess I should say. He barricaded himself because he had no way to get out again. He had dug himself into that hole, so the best he could do was barricade, hunker in, and try and take a couple of cops with him. Now imagine the same exact scenario. This is a bar, so there's drunk people. Okay? Alcohol and guns do not mix. Every single cop I have ever talked to in my life has said, when I go out and go drinking, when I go out and expect to be drinking, I leave my guns at home or I leave them in the car. There was one that said that. Um, Not everybody in that building was there to drink. We know there was at least one armed person because she was an off-duty cop. I don't know if she was security, as some have implied, or if she was there to party, right? And don't read anything else into that statement. She might have been there as security, and she might have been there to party with friends. I have no idea. But we know she had a gun. And there are some reports that she may have actually got a shot off before he took her out. There was a couple dozen people in there. They were designated drivers, or they were alcohol intolerant, but they were there to hang out with a friend, or they just didn't like alcohol, or a million other things. They were stone cold sober. Now drop all of those. Now magically drop a gun into each one of their waists. First shots go off. They all get the hint that something's going on. They all draw their own gun. Now Omar is entering the bar. Yes, he sees the off-duty cop and he shoots her as quickly as he can. Can he get everyone before they get him? No. Absolute worst case scenario is that body count would have been a quarter of what it ended up being. That is where that would have gone. And yeah, if you're drunk, leave your guns at home. Leave them in your car. Leave them somewhere else. Something else that could have happened that didn't is just a dozen people jump up and say, fuck it, we're going to die anyway. Let's take him. Let's take him. Throw a couple of pitchers of beer at him to distract him, and then 5, 6, 7 people charge him all at the same time and beat him to death. At least one of them probably would have survived. And there seems to be some evidence to suggest that his plan was to walk in, shoot a bunch of people really quickly to wound them so that they couldn't fight back, and then execute them. Carry anyways. When I go to California, I carry anyways. It's not legal. I don't care. I really, you can't judge me if I'm dead. I go to prison at that point, well, okay. I'll still be alive to go to prison. That's one of the arguments against or in favor of gun control I hate the most. You're being judge, jury, and executioner. Okay, well, you can't try me if I'm dead. So what's your point? And the mass shooter is dead? Okay, so I'm judge, jury, and executioner. I'm a murderer? Well, okay. And the other 15 people that didn't get killed because I decided I was going to be judge, jury, and executioner, what about them? You can't try them if they're dead, whether they did something or not. All right. Albine asked, did you see where they tested immediately full armor against modern bullets? It held up well. I'm going to guess that she means the Shadiversity test, and I don't remember it holding up that well. It did hold up to small arms. She could also be talking about in-range TV's test of replica Grabenpanzer. It held up very well to small arms. Did not hold up to rifle rounds at all. And yes, I've seen those. The Grabenpanzer, first of all, it's very heavy, which is part of the reason it's frontal only. And second of all, it's impractical to wear to a bar. Oh, oh boy, give me a second. But it did hold up. I know you're not talking about the Demolition Ranch version because that didn't hold up at all because it wasn't um, medieval armor. It was LARPing armor. Sorry, Matt, you blew that one. Um, okay, Troll is telling us about the history of his great grandmother, I think he said. Um, sold to self for a kiss. That's very romantic. Troll is telling us, yeah, he's old enough to remember Challenger disaster. I know I'm like 10 years, I think, older than you. Um, yeah, I thought you might have remembered it as a itty bitty. Troll, no, I'm telling you, if you can get armor, bare minimum that class 2A. And it kind of looks okay. It doesn't look great, but it looks okay. Um, Troll is telling us about his own armor. 40 pounds, 40-pound bite-proof chainmail. Is that shark or dog grade? Very, very different. Shark grade chainmail will not stand up to a dog, and dog grade chainmail will not stand up to a shark. And I can see why um, that would be great workout gear, as long as you can keep cool in it. Yes, Troll, I've seen one video by Kentucky Ballistics. I made a response video. Um, Everybody who's bashing on Kentucky Ballistics about what happened, shut the fuck up. Right? You don't know what you're talking about. Ian at least can run his mouth a little bit because he's an engineer. And that's it. I'll give Ian a little bit more slack because he is an engineer. And if I remember Ian's version of events, well, yeah, this is an unfortunate accident that does happen. I saw the video the way Kentucky Ballistics published it. I didn't see the raw video. I don't need to. Um, it, it's an unfortunate accident, and he even said it himself. He was using iffy ammo. It may have been reloaded. It may have been a million other things that just made it bad idea to use. Um, Alpine, the Kentucky Ballistics is a pure shooter channel. All he does is shoot. Oh, excuse me. And he's interesting, but he's particularly famous because he fired a 50 caliber single shot rifle that completely exploded. It almost killed him. Um, if I recall correctly, he said he had a 1 inch hole in his chest. Um, and he's very lucky that Papa Ballistics was there with him filming. His old man threw him in the truck, drove him to the hospital, and he had maybe 15 minutes to live at that point. Papa Ballistics also kept his head. A lot of people would have lost theirs right then. And he really he will show you exactly what happens to the best of his ability. There's a lot of people out there that are bashing on him. Oh, this is all your fault, but shut the fuck up. You people don't know what you're talking about. This one of those response videos is the reason why I I've completely distanced myself from another shooting channel. Um, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Did you? Oh, no. And what Kentucky Ballistics did is give us all a very sobering safety lesson as well. So, yeah, actually, he should have published that. Be careful what you do, and dangerous things are dangerous. Ian's response was a lot calmer than even mine just now. So go ahead and give Forgotten Weapons Kentucky Ballistics a search. And go ahead and give Ian more than just a little benefit of doubt. Okay, Troll is telling me that his armor is dog grade of hardened steel. Oh, because they bred bulldogs long ago. Alpine says she needs bear armor. I wasn't even aware that that was a thing, unless you mean the guy who made his own anti-bear armor because he wanted to go into a bear den to get bear blood while the bear was hibernating, which is kind of suicidal if you're not doing it right. Fortunately, he was not suicidal. Um, I see Troll has seen that video of Kentucky Ballistics mishap. The previous bullet struck the hydrant. It almost fizzled. Then he ate a grenade to the face. Well, it's a little harsh, but true. Put your thumb in it. That's I remember KB saying that. Put your thumb. Something about put your thumb in it, and that's what he ended up doing. Troll, bear armor is possible, but it's so heavy that basically you're walking around like a tank. If I recall, the guy that went to get the bear blood story correctly, he actually had to be dragged out of there by steel cables once he had gotten the sample that he was looking for. Um, it was iffy. No, if you have slap ammo of any sort, get rid of it in a safe way. Just get it out of your inventory. And that's what really went wrong for KB. He was using slap ammo that was, the box was old, and I remember in his video saying something about he didn't know if it had been reloaded or what. And he takes one shot, and the flash kind of, I think the first one, it overflashed, and he didn't see it as he's shooting, which I wouldn't have either. I would have been focusing on what I'm doing and not, at 50 yards away, and not something that's happening at less than a yard away. It happened. He didn't realize. And then, yeah, the second one, the whole gun exploded, including the cap sheared off. The threads sheared off. I remember Ian made a point of that at some point about how the threads sheared off of the cap. On that particular type of gun, it doesn't have a breech block. It has a threaded cap that holds the round in place. And that cap actually sheared off and hit him in the face. Yes, Alpine there. NASA had a big award. Anybody who could get blood from a bear during hibernation they would give them something like $500,000 or whatever. Well, that requires either a lot of ingenuity or a lot of courage. This guy had both. He got that blood spare, bear's blood, and it has huge scientific applications. It may have something in it that would affect long duration spaceflight. Something to do with the hibernation process. They really, really wanted that blood. Troll, that sounds painful. And yeah. Okay, so I'm caught up on the chat. I still have an hour. Good. That means I have an hour to annoy and pester everybody about 9017 as I'm seeing it now. First of all, the basic plan would not have changed. 2-man teams in each city. Sorry, that was a potential spam call. Where was it? 2-man teams in fit 100 cities. A driver and a shooter, and not necessarily a dedicated driver and a dedicated shooter. They may swap roles periodically. They may change cars periodically. They may change outer appearance, like if they're wearing body armor. Wear a red t-shirt at the start, change cars, go to do the first shoot, change cars, do the next shoot, and then take the red shirt off and put a blue one on. Same car, different color shirt. This is just to create confusion. First, the cops are looking for 2 guys wearing red shirts in a blue Miata. All right. And then they're looking for 2 guys wearing green shirts in a blue Miata. And now they're looking for a red Taurus. 2 guys wearing green shirts. The more they compile these things up, the more confusing they can make it, but it gets worse. You have a particularly target-rich environment. You can use fire and chemical weapons to increase panic. First of all, you have the panic from the shooting. Then you have the panic from the use of chemical weapons that at very least will make people very uncomfortable. Been there, done that. Twice now. The first time was an accident. I did it to myself. Do not do this. Do not mix 1 part bleach to 1 part boiling water. If you do, at least have proper ventilation. And if you do not have proper ventilation, you may accidentally gas yourself. I didn't realize this. I'd made a very weak chlorine gas. Oh, whoops. First of all, I'm lucky it was as weak as it was. And second of all, I'm twice as lucky that there was some degree of ventilation. That was particularly bad. I was a new seaman at my first unit. My job was to clean the heads, and by God damn, I was going to get those heads clean, right? I was going to kill 100 generations of germs down there. I remember even telling the leading seaman, I'm going to kill 100 generations of germs or virus or whatever. I was going to have that place so clean you could literally eat out of the toilet bowls. Well, you could eat out of the toilet bowls, and it almost killed me. process. Now, that is a highly impractical uh, chemical weapon. And any version of that you can name is still pretty impractical for any field use. It would require a vehicle, basically a U-Haul, to load the equipment up, and then it would leach out the chlorine gas so slowly that people would realize something else is going on and get the hell out. But there are other ways of accomplishing the same goal. Um, so, yeah, I guess chemical weapons are back on the table. Smoke grenades have never been off the table because all you'd have to do is light it off, which, like I said, there's smoke grenades for search and rescue purposes. They sell them on the internet. It's not a secret. You toss that into the crowd and they see the smoke and they think it's a gas and they panic. And worse still is biological weapons are now back on the table. Things you could do to prepare for this. Well, let's get realistic. You cannot carry a gas mask around with you all of the time. Even in the military, carrying a gas mask around all of the time is a pragmatic impossibility. That's why they're issued by unit necessity. And even then, you're not given an inspection with your gas mask. Or if you're getting an inspection with your gas mask, they'll tell you beforehand. You can't walk around your command 24/7 with your gas mask, even in your bag on your hip. Just, it's not practical. During the inspection, all the command really wants to know is, do you have your mask and do you know how to put it on? Okay, we're going to be doing gas drill next Saturday, so have your masks with you. And then 3 guys show up without them. I still have the insert for my gas mask, but it's no practical use to me. That's the reality. You can't carry a gas mask around with you. You could carry a light mask, face mask around with you. I had a double valve mask with charcoal filters, activated charcoal or something like that, filters. I still have it. It's buried somewhere because I was using it at work and they told me, nope, you can't use that anymore. Huh? You have to use our approved mask. Okay. So I started using their approved mask instead of my military approved light duty mask. It's light duty, but it'll get you out of the crisis. It will get you out of the immediate crisis. You just evacuate, go from there. Or you evacuate as quickly after as you can, considering the fact that the guy that let off that grenade, that gas attack, might have a gun. Alpine, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA. Yeah, they paid for it. I believe it was $500,000. It might have been more. The story was either in Popular Science or Popular Mechanics. That'll give you a little bit, narrow it down a little bit. I'm pretty sure it was Popular Science. Um, carry 24/7. What is it? I carry 365 hashtag, right? Um, Here's a little secret about carrying concealed. If you're carrying concealed, if it's really concealed, nobody will know if nothing happens. The only time I conscientiously do not carry is when I'm driving in California. I That's when I leave my gun in the back. I get from Reno to California to Papa Carries, and then I put it back on. I ride with Papa Carey for the rest of the weekend. He's driving, the cops are going to focus on the driver. As long as I don't do something stupid while they're sitting there dealing with us, what I did, fine. That light duty gas mask that I had, face mask, excuse me, that I had, it's very effective. Um, and unfortunately, it looks like certain people are manipulating circumstances so that they can force you to wear a mask for the next 10 years anyway. So might as well have it on you that someone somewhere is going to throw a temper tantrum rather than not have it and have them throwing the temper tantrum. All right. Troll seems to know something about the bear suit. It was a homebrew bear suit. The other was like Oregon somewhere. First guy died. Second guy went loaded for bear, so to speak. It was actually made of titanium. Um, I don't think there's video of it either. I believe Troll is right. I've never heard of a video. It was a print text, whatever you want to call it, with words, written words article, and I'm pretty sure it was in Popular Science. Never heard of a video of the bear suit. And it was ridiculously heavy, impossibly heavy. He had to be drug out with steel cables. Does that tell you how heavy it really was? I was not aware of there being a first guy. News to me. Um, you can't prepare for every scenario. The bear scenario. This was one where you had to plan well in advance. I also had absolutely nothing to do with terrorism, unless you count screwing with a bear who's been sleeping for the last 2 weeks. You want to go fuck with the bear? You go fuck with the bear. Not with my blessing. You know what? You want to go do that? You go do that. Just don't expect me to feel bad for you. Um, Sorry, guys. I'm getting used to the Bluetooth again. 9017. What is the real purpose? Well, it's just to create chaos. It's just to create confusion and make people very upset and angry and afraid. And they're going to lock themselves up in their homes tighter than coronavirus did because they're going to know their neighbor that they thought they could trust, they can't trust anymore. That's a lot of terror. The worst still is at least one of these teams will get clean away and never be known. We won't even know who they were. Um, I talked earlier about annexing Mexico. 9017 is partially a reason to do that. We know that 11 Iranians were caught in one day, not one catch, but hit within one day, within 24 hours of each other, trying to cross the U.S.-Mexican border. Nobody has even tried to call that fake news until, let's say, 3 hours after I end the stream, and somebody flags it as fake news because that's what they do. Um, I've always understood that at very least Iran is going to be behind this attack. The 100, 200 or so operatives, well, none of them will be Iranian. All of them will be trained and equipped, or trained and educated, and possibly equipped and paid by Iran. Um, that 2,000-mile border between the U.S. and Mexico becomes a 300-mile border between the United States and, it's not Panama, it's not Guatemala, Peru. Between the United States and Peru, yes, we pick up an extra, I think it's 8,000 miles of shoreline, but it's 8,000 miles patrolled by United States assets, which are a whole lot less corruptible than Mexican police. That's the truth. There's actually a reason why Mexican police are so corrupt. It's because they have zero actual power. Now they're replaced by U.S. police, American police, who will not be playing games, especially in that region. They know that this is a old, old problem. Those border patrol agents along the former Mexican coast, they'll have M16s. They'll have the same M16s that were brought out during the events at Capitol on 6th January. I'm not allowed to say the other word. I'm required to say the R word that I will not say. Um, and that's the truth. And they will shoot first and ask questions later. Anything, even the least bit iffy, the Mexican coast border patrol will just shoot first and not even bother with the questions. First decade or so, it'll probably be National Guard. You're very welcome, Alpine. Um, oh, Troll said the first guy's in the Darwin Hall of Fame. Apparently, the first guy tried to use some sports gear and motocross armor to protect him from a bear. Okay, that's why he's in the Hall of Fame. Uh, Luke, it's not my temper tantrum. Troll says he sort of wants Cuba as a protectorate or territory. Believe it or not, at one time Cuba was a U.S. territory, and then Fidel Castro. Um, thank you, Alpine. At least somebody out there can see it. I think trolls commented on this before, if I recall correctly. Not greatly supported, but a little bit. At least he was willing to entertain the notion. And I know Luke was willing to entertain the notion when I first said it. That was also well over a year ago. Um, there's a small elephant in the room. I keep harping on Iran as some great threat to humanity, which that's what people have said they interpret my words as, because that's what I meant. Iran is a threat not to the United States, not to millions of people, to the continuation of humanity. Um, my rancor is focused on the Iranian regime, the satanic cult that is headed by the Ayatollah. The new Ayatollah, at least, is not self-appointed, unlike the first one. So it's also a illegitimate Ayatollah, but at least he can say, "But I didn't do it. I didn't give myself this title. Somebody gave it to me." Yeah, somebody who held it illegitimately, but okay. Um, it's a satanic regime. It's a satanic cult. My rancor, though, is not for the Persian people. 99% of them, I really don't care one way or the other. Um, when I say commission the irradiated Sea of Iran, it's not because I hate the Persian people. It's because I know that's the only way to get rid of the satanic cult that runs that country. And I'm okay with that. I am perfectly fine with saving the rest of humanity and breaking a few eggs in the process, if that's what it takes. And if you cross the border, um, it, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, I don't give a fuck. Well, that's what M240s and RPKs are for. Break a few eggs to save the rest of humanity is well worth it. Um, I can't find it on the YouTube channel, and the Prawn Hub channel got nuked because all of a sudden they didn't like gun channels. But anyway, back in 2016, I believe it was, I actually talked about this subject. Why would Iran be so determined to destroy the United States specifically? Because the United States is that light on the hill, which I believe is from Deuteronomy. I think it's from Deuteronomy. There is also Muslim equivalents to the concept. Actually, every major religion has some equivalent to what Judeo-Christians call the light on the hill. That marks safety is here, God is here, survival is here, whatever you want to put there. We all have some version of that concept. Satan has been trying to destroy that light since humanity came along. Maybe you're an atheist. Maybe I just pissed you off. Okay. There are people who want to destroy humanity, who have been trying to extinguish that light for centuries, millennia. The US really is that light on the hill. If they can even dim that light, they can put the entire world into a dark age because of the situation now versus, say, the medieval dark age. Um, they could actually track down anybody who's trying to climb out of it. They will suppress any talk about space flight, any talk about leaving the Earth until it's too late. There's an episode of Star Trek Next Generation that kind of touched on what would happen for a society that does not have spaceflight capability. The Enterprise is cruising along and they find a space probe. Not very impressive, it's not very big. And they start to scan it, and all of a sudden, the captain drops to the deck like a sack of potatoes. What happened? Well, the space probe is actually taking control of his brain for a few hours. Now, their space probe was used just to tell the entire rest of the universe that, hey, we lived, this was what our life was like, and then our planet, our star went supernova. The Iranian regime is trying to make sure that happens. That we don't develop the ability to leave Earth. And any tool that they can put to bear, they will. We're actually lucky that Corona was only as bad as it was. The next round, they're looking at what went wrong this last time and saying, okay, how do we fix that? Remember I said something about 11 Iranians caught crossing the U.S.-Mexican border? Yeah. It's a little more interesting. I have a coworker who he never got sick, but well, he got head colds and flus, but he didn't get coronavirus between November of 2019 and now. But he did get sick and lose his sense of taste and smell back in January of 2019. I actually pushed him on this subject. I thought for sure either I'd misheard him or he had misspoke, or maybe both. No, it was January of 2019 before any victims were identified in Wuhan. The earliest Wuhan victims, or potential victims, were from August or September of 2019. He's saying he got sick in January, and he's tested positive for corona. Oh, so how does he get a man-made virus at least 6 months before anyone else on Earth is identified? Well, there's a few ways of doing that. And that's what the 11 in Texas were being deployed for. All right, got to catch up on chat. Troll is not impressed by tantrums. Luke is amused by it. Troll says, I had a guy, Karen, that's a Darren, completely melt down on me in a parking lot for left turn on red. He, while I smiled, said, welcome to Georgia, it's fine. Okay. Welcome to Georgia. Troll, I'm going to assume that this guy's license plate, or at least his driver's license, says South Carolina, and he does correct, right turn on red. Your acquaintance, your Darren, from South Carolina needs to get a clue. I think there's 3 states that don't allow right turn on red after stop. I grew up in California. I have actually seen signs from Shasta County, where I grew up, that said left turn on red, okay after stop. This was a 4-lane semi-divided highway. There was islands between the 2 directions of traffic, but there was, I think, 3 red lights within a quarter of a mile, maybe 4. There might have been a 4th light within that quarter-mile stretch. 2 of them turn on to terminating highways. Because of the way this whole thing was planned out back in the 1800s, as badly as it was planned out back in the 1800s, they decided we're going to go ahead and allow a left turn on red after stop. Light's red, you stop, you make sure there's no oncoming traffic, make your left turn. I've seen them since then. Those signs are still there, by the way. And I mean, that's how crazy your South Carolina guy is. I've also seen in Oregon, right turn, no stop for right turn on red or something like that. There's one particular road where you don't stop if you're turning right on a red. It's also within a quarter of a mile of a railroad bridge that's marked 14 feet 1 inch, but it's not 14 feet 1 inch. It's about 13 feet 6 inch. South Carolina, I don't know what the hell they're doing there. If somebody in the chat can tell me what the other 2 states are, I know it's not New York or Texas, because I saw the right turn or left turn okay on red after stop in Texas. I believe it was Houston. So it's obviously not Texas either. Right. Gotta stop harping on, well, my weird things and focus on a few important things. First of all, 9017 is still coming. And with Joe Biden in office, it's coming. It's going to be here. I give it six more months. Hell, I'm surprised it hasn't happened already. At bare minimum, it will involve gas attacks or smoke grenade attacks, and it will probably happen with the build-up towards Delta. Oh, on the subject of biological weapons attacks, if I were the guy that wrote this battle plan, I would not have written 1 attack. I would have written 5 or 6. And now they're talking about Delta. Just saying. 9017 is coming, and you need to be ready for it. Imagine a coast-to-coast wave of 5 or 6 Pulse nightclubs in any one given city. All of this within about 24 hours of each other. That's what's coming. Worse still is, yes, Iran's still going to send a few specialists. But they don't need to send as many because they know they have very happy allies, mercenaries in the United States itself. And worst case scenario is they weed out potential recruits in favor of people who are mentally ill. Mentally ill Antifa and BLM members. Applying with drugs to keep them on board. And when the day comes, say, this is what we've been preparing for. This is what we've been planning for. Yes. Yeah, I know. And now they're mentally ill. They're drug addicts. Give them a quick hit and they'll do anything. All right, I gotta stop the chat for a second. I'm going to go back over Daetslov. Oops. With the community, because there have been a couple small revisions over time, and because you need to know what it is you think you're supporting. So the preamble in Title I. Second Amendment revision, National Mandatory Carry Act, effective a date. This version is still written as a state constitutional amendment concept. I'm beginning to realize that maybe the state constitutional amendment concept is not going to work because states aren't interested. The Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States is hereby repealed and replaced as follows. A well-protected public being necessary to the security of a free state, the duty of the people to keep and bear arms shall be enforced strictly as provided for in this amendment. So really all I did was take the original Second Amendment, replace the word right with duty, and shall not be infringed, and replaced it with shall be enforced. And then added strictly as provided for in this amendment since then. Since this is still a work in progress, it's not a constitutional amendment yet. There's still time to chime in with an opinion on sections that should be added. Title I, to provide for the enforcement of the duty to keep and bear arms. The phrase, the duty to keep and bear arms shall mean all arms in general and firearms in particular, with special attention for handguns and pistols in immediate possession, long arms and shotguns in vehicles and homes. The phrase Mandatory Carry Act used in this act shall mean the provisions of this act requiring the bearing of arms. Okay. The phrase the duty to keep and bear arms means you keep a gun on you. I mean, you think it would be very simple, and for some people it's not. It does not require body armor. It does not require brass knuckles. It does not require multi-tool. It does not require a coffee cup. Nothing in here says any of those things are required, but it does say handguns and pistols in immediate possession. It's not too hard to figure out, and yet some people can't. Can't or just don't want to. Ooh. Oh, I gotta catch up on chat. If you have any questions, toss them in the chat. As you should know by now, that later on down, it does have an option for you to carry a MAC-10. Alan Hart would be out of prison now if that was the law now. He would have to pay like $5 processing fee, maybe $5. What he did would have actually not been illegal under Daetslov. I detest it, and I'm going to say it because 99% of you out there, myself included, do not have the skill set to fire or to use an automatic weapon. All right, that's the truth. That 1%, I've met a few of them that can track an individual person while firing an automatic weapon. They're good. They are way better than I will ever be. And I recognize their skills. And Alan would still not be in prison now. I also cannot overemphasize this. You're still responsible for 100% of your bullets and your decisions. So you are not 1000% sure of your skill level. Don't do it. Carry a semi-auto. And there is been floated the idea that maybe an or a selective fire where the change from semi to automatic, you have to engage a secondary safety. I heard the idea. I'm not going to say no. I know that that's used on the law enforcement variant of the M16. Okay, catching up on chat. Troll says in Macon, there's 3-lane roads. The middle lane is both ways depending on the time of day. I've seen those. There's freeways set up like that. I think in Los Angeles and California and Austin, Texas. Alpine says, I just finished the audiobook Operation Paperclip. Anything is possible. Yeah. Especially if you have a nation state behind it. You want people to disappear? They disappear. You want them to disappear into some deep, dark hole somewhere? They disappear into some deep, dark hole somewhere. You want them to disappear right into downtown New York City getting a bagel at Nova's? They disappear into downtown New York getting a bagel at Nova's. We do it all the time. It's called Witness Protection Program. You want them to disappear into very public limelight at Jet Propulsion Laboratory? And he ends up, I think, the director of rocket research at not JPL, but Kennedy Space Center. Very big and public and, well, I'm sorry, very big and public and hi, how are you people? I love America now. Alpine says, Israeli soldiers carry at all times because they are responsible if anything happens to their gun while not in their possession. That's an interesting detail. I had not considered that. I was aware that they carried all of the time. I did not know that they carried their rifle with them all of the time. By the way, about a third of the Israelis are active duty military at any given time, and half are active in reserve. The other half are either too young to serve or too old or disabled to serve. And that's the truth. Israel is as close to 100% mandatory military service as you can get. They are closely followed by Switzerland. At least Switzerland has a few other exemptions. Get this. Oh. I've often said that Switzerland and Israel are also the de facto and de jure mandatory carry states, respectively. Switzerland, there's no actual mandatory carry laws Um, Everybody, unless they can show a reason, has to serve a couple of years in the military, and then they turn their weapons in, or they pay to have it converted, pinned to semi-auto only, or they pay a whole lot to have it left in original condition. And um, it is based on the canton. That's the word they use for state, and what that canton wants to do. But in Bloke on the Range has talked about, you want to know about Swiss gun laws. Bloke on the Range is the guy, all right? Because I think he still lives there. I do know he was talking about changes in the law that he didn't like. Um, the last I heard, he still lived in Switzerland. He has a Swiss Army rifle that has been pinned to semi-auto only, and I mean, he's forgotten more about that subject than I think I'll ever learn. He also has forgotten more about the SA-80 family than I will ever learn, because he carried one once upon a time. Israel, on the other hand, has actual mandatory carry laws. Now, it's not for everybody. It's based on what you are and what you are doing in life. You're a school teacher, you have to carry. If you're active duty military, you have to carry. If you are certain security apparatus, you have to carry. All right. So in Israel, it's actual de jure black letter law. De jure means of law. De facto means of fact. Right. United States, it's de facto law that you have to wear clothes. Right. De facto law, you have to wear a shirt. As a female in public, you have to wear a shirt. It's not de jure law, and New York in particular at one point, and probably still, had no actual de jure law that said you have women have to wear something over their chest in public. So a bunch of women got together and held a protest, going topless in the middle of the day because they didn't have to. No black letter law. It's still de facto law. You cannot be nude in public. Um, oh, sorry. We're coming up on minute 48. Want to recap. One, annex Mexico. If you can give me, or if you're willing to fight me, on opposition to this, other than a racist rant, bring it. I will set up a special live stream just for you around a schedule that is much more convenient to you than it is to me. Pretty sure it'll be more convenient to you. Mandatory carry will save lives. It's already the law in Switzerland, the de facto law in Switzerland. It's already the de jure law in Israel. How many mass shootings do those countries have? Well, I can tell you. U.S. has more mass shootings per year than Switzerland. Well, okay, but so does Britain. Britain has as many mass shootings in a month as Switzerland has had since 1980 something, when the Swiss government took pocket carry, pocket ammo away. They used to actually give ammo to the National Guardsmen to keep with their gun at home. And it was great until one guy took his pocket ammo and his government issued rifle and shot up a post office. Oh, well, they took the pocket ammo away, but they didn't ban you from buying your own ammo because it's a really bad look when somebody goes postal with government issued ammo. That's a bad look. Um, since then, there's been one other mass shooting. It was last year, I believe, or the year before. Been the year before. That's two in 30 years. Britain has an average of two mass shootings per month. So who's doing it better? Israel has an average of two or three mass shootings per month as well. In Israel, they're acknowledged as what they really are, terrorist attack. That's also because they're literally surrounded by people that want them dead. As Ellen Hart once said, when you're surrounded by people who just want you dead, you got to mean business. And they do. If they didn't mean business, they'd be having an average of 4 or 5 mass shootings per day. And that's the truth. On a related note, how many people have ever tried to invade Switzerland? Well, I'll give you a hint. It's a really short list. Taking away pocket or pouch, maybe ammo, did affect Switzerland's readiness, but not badly enough to affect their national defense. You gotta go out and buy your own ammo now. Gee, thanks to the one jackoff that fucked it up for everybody else. Um, it's worked twice now. Why would it not work? Meanwhile, countries that do ban guns, um, they can have as many mass shootings in a month as Switzerland. And I'm going to pick on Britain in particular here because you Brits, you're so smugly, arrogantly confident in your gun control laws. Yeah, you have more mass shootings per capita than the US. You have more murders, per capita than the US. Now, I can concede that this was done in 2019. I did this math in 2019, and it was based on the previous 5 years, 2014 through 2019. Britain had an average of 600 gun murders per year. US has an average of 1,000 gun murders per year. That's almost twice as many. Okay, you can see that for 10 times the population. So, what is 10 times the population versus half as many actual incidents? It's like a five times as much per capita. So, you Brits, come on back. Let's talk about that one. I'll even talk about it on your time. Alpine Gulch talks about not annexing Mexico because they don't want to be. Okay. Well, that would be a decision they make. And at least we gave them the option. But I'm going to dig into that a little bit. The average Mexican citizen doesn't care one way or the other. They want the corruption gone. Being annexed by the US would be worth getting rid of the corruption. On the note, for the recap, annex Mexico. The only downside is we basically have to rebuild another country, but it would be rebuilding part of the United States at that point. Um, that's really the only downside. We'd have to invest billions of dollars first getting rid of the cartels, 105 millimeters at a time, and then cleaning up the mess of 100 years of really poor governance. Mexico is actually an example of a voluntarist state. Voluntarism just doesn't work. And worse is it leads to rampant corruption everywhere. The police know that nobody's got their back. If they get murdered, yeah, sure, it's going to get investigated, but nothing's going to happen. Their families get massacred. Sure, it's going to get investigated, but nothing's going to come of it. That would be one of the major advantages to Mexico to annexation. Now, all of a sudden, you've got the United States government, not the Mexican government, who's backing up the police. The police are going to find their balls then. Hey, you know what? You might kill me. That's something I accepted the day I took this job. But they're going to come after you and after you and after you forever. And then they're going to hang you. That's the truth. Cops in Mexico don't care because they know nothing's going to happen one way or the other. Plamba y plata. Lead or gold. Well, with U.S. with Mexico being part of the U.S. now, all of a sudden, yeah, there's still going to be plumba y plata out there, but there's a whole lot more plumba going the other direction as well. I'm sorry, Troll. I did not know you dropped out. Troll says he's back. Gun control is a joke. The only gun controlled by bans are legal guns. Criminals don't care. And but I'll put this to y'all very bluntly. I went from a gun control supporter to a gun control uh, opponent to mandatory carry. Well, that took several years, but I went from gun control supporter to gun control opponent in about 3 weeks when I got over being butthurt by being proven gun control doesn't work. It can never work. I have a video on the channel literally called that. Gun control has failed compilation. What Tim did with his Utah gun, and specifically the barrel, was a extremely simple version of what Brent did to me. Tim used a Utah gun. Okay, that means you have to unscrew the barrel, put the bullet in, screw the barrel back on. So it's very much a single shot gun. Versus what Brent did, which was an M9 Retta M92 barrel. Okay, I've never found a video of somebody making an M92 barrel, so that wouldn't do me any good. But what Tim did proves it can't work. Oh, Troll was listening. Well, most people do. Damn it, I gotta sneeze all of a sudden. Gun control does not work. It cannot work. And all it would ever do is facilitate people who don't care about the law and are smart enough to keep their mouths shut long enough to do it. Right? Going to that compilation I did, I presume for a sake of argument that Farmcraft and Idahoan Show and Deuces and Guns all voluntarily turned in their weapons, the weapons that they had used or the equipment they had used. Said, I don't want to play this game anymore. I want to move on to mathematics, as an example. Well, that's great, but that's them. You know how many people are secretly doing what they openly did and made videos of themselves doing? I'll give you a hint. There's over 100 in any given city of 10,000 people. There's one guy down in Los Angeles, of all places, who was willing to let, I think it was Wired magazine, come in and video his complex. Right? It's a multi-million-dollar facility, and he produces one gun per month. And that's about it. And he's making all kinds of other widgets or components or whatever the hell else he makes there, because it's a multi-million-dollar facility. It's got to pay itself off. That's the truth, people. That guy would make a absolute killing if he decided to go on the black market. I've met that guy. He quit the moment California required home builds to be registered. He made his last one, I think, the day before that law took effect. And then he's done. He won't even make an 80%. And that kind of made me mad. I'll tell you all the truth. I'm butthurt because he won't even make 80%. But it is what it is. All right. We are at just over 2 hours now. So, gun control does not work. 9017 is coming. Be ready for another bioterror attack, probably related to that. Iran wants everybody dead, but they'll settle for 90% of the world. And thank you to everybody who tuned in live. Thank you to everybody who's going to tune in later. Don't be afraid to play my videos at 2 times speed. I do it all the time. Keep calm and mandatory carry on.